Hey everyone, it is Luke Fry, CPA and co-founder of TimberTax, and I just wanted to take this time to go over some options for what you can be doing right now. Last week, we talked about how to manage your cash flow, and I provided you a resource to track that, and I know many people have downloaded that, and I've reached out to see if there's anything you need help on with figuring out what to do with that after the fact. There's also additional free resources available. I'm available to go through a cash flow forecast with you if that would be helpful. One major item that may seem obvious when you do a cash flow forecast is figuring out what your runway is. So your runway is essentially how long you have until you're going to run out of cash. Now, what that means is whatever cash available you have right now, and then you look at your weekly or monthly burn, is especially in startup terms, how much you're spending. So if you have $10,000 in your bank account and you spend $2,000 a month, you just divide the 10,000 by 2,000 and you have 5 months of runway. Now, obviously, there might be some situations where things are changing. I know if you're involved in the wedding industry, or if you're involved in tourism, or anything physical performing arts, or service type professions, in person events, you may not have as many clients and as much revenue. So, how do you manage that? Well, one of the biggest ways, if you're not generating cash through sales, is either an investment or through financing. So I want to talk through a few of those options. The first one is a small business administration financing loan that is now available. So if you haven't already and you're affected by the COVID through reduced revenue, I would very highly encourage you to go ahead and apply for that loan through the Small Business Administration. And I'll make sure that there are links to all of these on here as well. I'm going to post that one right now. It's the Small Business Funding Programs Disaster Assistance, and go ahead and apply for that. You will probably need your tax return and your financials, as well as a couple hours to go through that. They are pretty high volume, but I believe they were issued recently $7 billion of additional funds to go towards this, so worth looking at. So that again is a loan, meaning it has to be repaid, but it's at a very low interest rate. The other option for an actual loan is going to be your current bank, credit union, credit card. I would very highly recommend, even if you don't need cash right now, and even if you have some runway, like 3 to 6 months available, I would try to increase your limits or request a new line of credit at this time, just to make sure that you have more liquidity. Because at this point, we don't know how long this is going to last, and if it were to continue over 3 months, then you might not have that runway that you previously had set. And there might be additional expenses. So in addition to looking at your cash flow forecast, looking at expenses to get rid of, you might also look at ways to increase some cash through financing. The other item that I mentioned there on investment, this might be a time if you have anybody in your friends or family who would be willing to invest in your business and help you get through this period of time, that could be something as well. Just be really clear with how you're going to manage that, as far as is it truly an investment of equity, or is it some sort of a loan? Usually a lawyer can help you decide what that is. Just make sure it's very clear and stated in your agreement. Um, Other ways to generate cash right now would be grants. So there are quite a few businesses out there, including Facebook, Amazon, and also your cities, wherever you live. I'm going to go ahead and post in here the Facebook grant application. I believe that's just informational. The Amazon Small Business Grant, whatever city you're in, also very likely has some sort of grants available as well. I know San Francisco, New York, Seattle have all had grants that were available. So if you're affected by this, take a look at those and make sure you apply. It cannot hurt. The nice thing about a grant is It is free money. You don't have to pay it back. It's given to you, and it's meant to help stimulate and keep things going. Uh, I'm also going to talk next week about some of the new laws that have been passed with paid family leave, employment tax credits, unemployment that is also applicable to people who are self-employed. Why that's important is because if you are self-employed, you might be thinking typically you don't qualify for any sort of unemployment claims. Unemployment claims is what you would go apply for if you were fired or laid off from your job. Well, this new tax law that was passed last Friday actually did provide some sort of relief on the self-employment tax, which is one of the taxes you pay to the IRS when you have had a decrease in revenue because of this outbreak. There's another small thing that I was just reading about that I'll send more information on. But if you have employees, that gets a lot more complicated. And on a quarterly basis, you can apply for credit on the payroll tax portion. Again, if you have employees, make sure that they are not able to work. There's relief on your quarterly tax payments. It's quite beneficial, actually. The other thing that just came out, Gusto wrote a blog about it. So if you're on Gusto and have their blog, there is a disaster relief mechanism in the tax code that allows employers to pay employees fully deductible amounts for some basic living and family expenses, as well as anything related to something like a funeral that would be fully deductible by the business and is not taxable to the employee. So rather than if you have employees that you're paying right now and you want to maybe reduce their salary or their hours have already been reduced, but you might be able to send them 100 or 500 or $1,000 just in cash, that might qualify under this rule to be fully deductible for your business and not be taxable to them. So in summary, I would try and make sure that if you haven't downloaded that cash flow forecast, make sure you do. Work through that, see how you're going to fare, create a few scenarios. Then I would also apply for the SBA loan if you're affected. Any other loans that you have access to, call your credit cards, try to increase your credit rates, your credit limits rather. And then also explore the Facebook, Amazon, and some of these other, I know I saw Yelp also had some grants available. From there, there is some tax help available as well. Make sure you're checking with your city and your state, because in each one of those, and we've been trying to reach out to people as we get information, but that's not always possible to share it with you that you may not be aware of. So let us know if there's anything else that we can do to help. And if nothing else, just make sure that you have some sort of a plan in place. And that's all that we can do right now. Thank you.